breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warmer for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Johnny Venezia. He does great work over at NBC Sports Bet, taking a look at this amazing game that we all know and love of baseball. We're going to be asking him about some of the takeaways that he had at the trade deadline, and he does a really good job on the player awards market, so we're going to ask him about National League Rookie of the Year. We're going to be asking about the Cy Young races that we have going on as well, and then in the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter /X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter /X questions, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever. 100% of gambling transactions do get approved. You get cashback rewards as you utilize EdgeBoost, and when you go to edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That gets you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Monday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Houston Astros carve up Sandy Alcantara and the Miami Marlins, this by a count of 8-2. Welcome back, Jeremy Pena. He is back in the fold for the Astros, much needed for them as he was able to help the team out as Jason Alexander was able to as well. He did not pitch like George Costanza. 6 scoreless innings. Brian King did give up a pair of solo home runs, though, in his inning of work as you had home run number 3 of the season for Derek Hill, and Javier Sonja gets home run number 4 of the campaign. Sandy Alcantara doesn't give up any home runs, but 6 runs allowed in 7 innings. Not great. Cade Gibson gives up 2 runs in 2 innings, and for the Astros, you had Brian Abreu and Hector Neris both lend a scoreless inning. You had a lot of scoreless innings out there from the Milwaukee Brewers as they get the job done against the Atlanta Braves, this by a count of 3-1 as for Quinn Priester, he gives up a solo home run in his 7 innings of work as Rickson Profar gets his 4th home run of the season. And for Eric Fetty, he got whopped again. 3 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings. He has now allowed at least 3 runs in 7 straight starts. From there, the bullpen was solid. Aaron Bummer is not a bummer. 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And Desbel Hernandez and Dylan Dodd, the Dodd father, they both lend a scoreless inning. For the Brewers, Ebner Uribe, Trevor McGill both lend a scoreless inning. And Isaac Collins, the difference maker in the game, a 3-run homer for the Brewers, his 7th home run season, and lone form of scoring that the Brewers had in this one. The Cincinnati Reds, they were on to a 3-2 win over the Cubs. This despite the fact that Nick Lodolo, removed after getting 5 outs in this game, he was rocking and rolling. He left due to precaution, so we'll see if there's any sort of ailment there. Nick Martinez from there had to be the impromptu bulk guy, giving up 2 runs in 2 1/3 innings. He was taken deep by Dansby Swanson, 17th home run season, but from there, Scott Barlow, 2 scoreless innings, Graham Ashcraft, Tony Santillan, Emilio Pagan, all able to turn a scoreless inning, and for the Cubs, Mike Soroka, he goes 2 innings, he allows a run along the way. I believe we might have actually had a little bit of a rain delay in this one as well, so that was interesting as you had Tyler Stevenson get his 9th home run in the campaign. From there, Ben Brown, the bulk guy, gives up 1 run in 4 innings. Brian Brazier, he gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning. Caleb Theobar not out of the bullpen scoreless, and then you had Tyler Rogers, Drew Pomeranz, both lend a scoreless inning. And for Taylor Rogers, I get my Rogers confused. He was actually on the Cincinnati Reds just a few days ago. The Cleveland Guardians, they get the job done against the New York Mets, this by a count of 7-6. This game was 0-0 going into the 6th inning, and then you had 8 runs scored, so if you had the under in this one, rough there. But Gabriel Urias, he goes deep off of Sean Manaea for his 8th home run in the campaign. For Manaea, he gives up 5 runs in 5 2/3 innings. Brooks Raley from there, not out of the bullpen scoreless. From there, Tyler Rogers, the correct Rogers, Reed Garrett, Edwin Diaz, all in a scoreless inning, and then Ryan Helsley, 2 unearned runs given up in his inning of work in the 10th. He was hurt by a pair of errors, and for the Cleveland Guardians, Slade Sassoni gives up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned, including a home run going deep off of him. Pete Alonso, 25th home run of the campaign. You did have Hunter Gaddis continue to not be great, 2 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning, but Eric Sabrowski, a scoreless inning. Cade Smith, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Nick Henry gives up an unearned run in the 10th inning, but it was enough to be able to get the job done. The Red Sox also get the job done 8-5. They take down the Kansas City Royals. Royals at one point were the top under team in all of baseball, but they've been going over in a few games recently. Now 47 overs, 64 unders, and 2 pushes. And for Bailey Felter, he lived up to that name. He gave up 7 runs in 4 innings, including a bomb to Jarren Duran. 12th home run season. Brian Bayo was great. 1 unearned run given up in 6 innings. Bullpen was out. Oriel Alcala gives up a pair of home runs, 3 runs in total, as Vinny Pasquantino, his 19th home run season. Miguel Garcia, his 11th. Alcala only got 1 out of the bullpen. From there, you had Justin Wilson give you an out of the bullpen. He allowed a run. Steven Matz, a scoreless inning, though, along with Aroldis Chapman for a scoreless inning. Garrett Whitlock, an out of the bullpen scoreless as well. And then for the Royals bullpen, Sammy Long gives up a run in 1 2/3 innings. And El Zarpa, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Taylor Clark was able to turn a scoreless inning as well. One word to describe the Baltimore Orioles bullpen: deplorable. 13-3 the final, and the Orioles, by the way, have actually been your top under team away from home in all baseball. 37 unders, 20 overs, and 2 pushes, but they self-inflicted the damage here. As Gabe Povich wasn't great, 4 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. He allowed a pair of bombs, as going deep off of him, Kyle Schwarber, his 39th home run season, and then you'd have Bryce Harper get his 17th home run season, but Schwarber was not done. 40th home run season, that comes off the bullpen. Armando Sosa, his 5th home run campaign. You had Harrison Bader, welcome into Philadelphia, 13th home run season. Then you had a home run number 2 of the season for Weston Wilson. All those home runs came off the bullpen, as for Baltimore, you had Corbin Martin give up 6 runs without getting it out, and he allowed a home run. Yuromil Hidalgo, he goes 1 1/3 innings, he allowed a home run, and then you had 2 solo bombs given up by Elvin Rodriguez in his inning of work, so that was not great. The Pittsburgh Pirates have been a relatively good under team thus far this season, but the San Francisco Giants were unable to hold them down. 5-4. The Pirates end up getting the job done here, as for San Francisco, Justin Verlander, good start, 1 unearned run allowed in 5 innings, and then the bullpen let him down. Randy Rodriguez gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning as he blew the save. Spencer Bivens, 2 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and then you had 2 runs given up in 2 innings by Carson Seymour, and he allows a home run along the way to Jack Swiniski, 2nd home run of the campaign. You don't mess with the Johan Oviedo, turned out to be an opener, gave up 2 runs in an inning of work. Kyle Nicholas from there, 2 2/3 innings, he allows 2 runs. You don't mess with the Johan Ramirez, 2 2/3 innings scoreless. Ryan Barucki, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Dori Baletta, he was able to give you a scoreless inning to be able to get that one to the window. The Tigers get to the window, 6-3. They take down the Minnesota Twins, as for Trevor Adams, gives up 2 runs in 5 innings. Wasn't a bad start here. He does allow a home run, but then from there, Noah Davis gives up 3 runs in an inning, including home run. Erasmo Ramirez, a solo home run given up in 2 innings of work. For the Twins, all 3 runs come on solo home runs. Trevor Larnach, his 14th home run season, Ryan Jeffers, his 8th, and Matt Wallner, his 15th. Those all come off of Casey Mize, who gives up 3 solo home runs in 6 innings of work. Brad Herter, Tommy Kahnle combined for 2 scoreless innings, and Kyle Finnegan, a scoreless inning. Meanwhile, going deep for Detroit, Gary Carpenter, 19th home run season. Dylan Dingler, his 10th, and Wencio Perez, he was able to get home run number 9 of the campaign. I'm currently doing this as this game is still in progress, but I know how it's going to turn out. The Blue Jays are currently up 14-1, so I don't feel like I need to wait to do this recap. As for the Colorado Rockies, my gosh, this is just bad. Tanner Gordon allowed 11 hits and he got 8 outs. He gave up 7 runs, all of which were earned. Ryan Rolson from there gave up 2 runs in 3 1/3 innings. Carson Palmquist, 5 runs allowed in an inning. Going deep for the Toronto Blue Jays, Bo Bichette twice, 14th and 15th home runs of the season. Dalton Varsho, welcome back, 9th home run season, and Eric Lauer is great. 6 runs allowed in an inning. We'll see what the bullpen does, but you cash your Blue Jays run line, and your fate of the Colorado Rockies came through. You were able to get the over as well, but you did not get the over in the Dodgers game, as the LA Dodgers, they fall to the St. Louis Cardinals by a count of 3-2. They get Max Muncy back in the fold, but not a lot doing on offense. Dodgers held to 3 total hits, as for the Cardinals, pair of bombs ignite them to victory, as you had Mr. Mason Wynn get his 8th home run season off of Tyler Glasnow, and Anthony Banda gives one up to Ivan Herrera, 10th home run season. Glasnow gives up just a solo home run in 7 innings of work. He was solid. Brock and Roll Stewart, though, he gives up a run in the 9th inning. That proves to be costly, as Yohan Pozo had an RBI single. Anthony Banda gives up a solo run in his inning of work. Jack Dreher out of the bullpen scoreless, but for the Dodgers, 3 total hits, as Sonny Gray was on point in this one, gives up a solo run over the course of 7 innings to Freddie Freeman, 13th home run of the season. Then Riley O'Brien gives up a run in his inning of work. Jojo Romero, he gets a save. He was able to pitch a scoreless inning, and for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they take it to the Slam Diego Padres, 6-2 the final. As for JP Sears, he wasn't that great with the Athletics, and his first start with the Padres was not great. 5 runs allowed in 5 innings, gave up 10 hits and a home run, as going deep off of him, it was Tyler Locklear, his first home run as a member of the Arizona Diamondbacks, and then Alek Thomas, 8th home run season. That comes off of Yuki Matsui. He gives up a solo home run in his inning work. Wani Peralta, 2 scoreless innings, but Brandon Pfaadt battled his way through 5 2/3 innings. He allowed 2 runs, both of which were earned. Kyle Backus, 2 scoreless innings, and Andrew Huffman comes in. He was able to provide the team with 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and then the LA Angels, they do get the job done against the Tampa Bay Rays, this by a count of 5-1, as for Adrian Hauser, he pitched a little bit more like Doogie in this one. 11 hits, 5 runs, all of which were earned in 5 2/3 innings, as he was taken deep by Joe Adell, who set fire to the rain, 22nd home run season. Meanwhile, Yusei Kikuchi, I say he was solid for the Angels. He gives up 1 run in 6 innings. Brock and Roll Burke, Ryan Zephyrian, Connor Brogdon, they all lend a scoreless inning. And for the Rays, Ian Seymour comes in for 2 1/3 innings scoreless. And he also had the Texas Rangers in 10 innings get it done against the Yankees by a count of 8-5. Max Fried, by the way, has now allowed at least 3 runs, earned or unearned, in each out of his last 6 starts. 4 runs allowed in 5 innings. From there, Luke Weaver, Camilo Duvall, David Bennar, they all lend a scoreless inning, but Devin Williams in the 9th inning gives up a home run that extends the game, as that was given up to Jock Peterson, who's hitting a .132 for the season. 3rd home run of the campaign. Boy, Devin Williams has been a disappointment. And then Josh Young, 3-run shot off of Jake Bird to walk off the game, 11th home run season. Jake Bird gave the Bird 3 runs, 2 of which were earned, give it up in 2/3 of an inning. And for the Yankees, pair of bombs of their own. Paul Goldschmidt off of Patrick Corbin, 9th home run season, and then 55 Shades of John Gray gives one up to Giancarlo Stanton, 10th home run season. Corbin gives up 3 runs in 3 innings, and then John Gray 2 runs in 5 innings, but you did have Danny Kalum give you a scoreless 10th inning, and Luis Curvello, he was able to come in for a scoreless inning, as well as for the Texas Rangers. They also have been one of your top 100 teams in all baseball, but they've been turning a little bit more overwhelming recently. You take a look at them overall for the season, and they're still very much on a, shall we say, upward trend with regards to the under. And if you take a look at just the games that the Texas Rangers have played at home, I believe that they are still the top home under team in all baseball thus far this season, as right now for the Texas Rangers, checking in 19 overs, 35 unders, and a push. The Reds actually now have the top under rate in all baseball at home. They're 18 overs, 35 unders, and 5 pushes. And if you do take a look at what we're all getting in Major League Baseball right now, overall for the season, favorites sitting at 56.7%, 949 and 725 on the money line. Meanwhile, the under hitting at a rate of 52.1%, 843 unders, 775 overs. But if you look at the last 7 days in baseball, it's been a bit more overwhelming. 47 overs, 37 unders, and for the money line favorites, they're at a rate of about 54%, 48 and 41. So that's what we're all getting in baseball right now. That's what we all got on Monday. Now coming next, how about if we talk a little bit about the awards markets and the trade deadline that we saw last week with our good friend Johnny Venezia, who does great work over at NBC Sports Bet. That's up next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
This podcast is supported by Talkspace.
When my husband came home from his military deployment, readjusting was hard for all of us. Thankfully, I found Talkspace.
Talkspace provides professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatric providers online. Military members, veterans, and their dependents ages 13 and older can get fast access to providers, all from the privacy of their computers or smartphones.
I just answered a few questions online, and Talkspace matched me with a therapist. We meet when it's convenient for me, and I can message her anytime. It was so easy to set up, and they accept TRICARE. Therapy was going so well, my husband and I started seeing a couples therapist through Talkspace too.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, including TRICARE. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com/military. Go to Talkspace.com/military to get started today. That's Talkspace.com/military.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always a pleasure to be joined by this man, as Johnny Venezia. He does such a tremendous job. Take a look at this great game of baseball, as I know that he does a great job with the Breaking Bet podcast. You're able to find that wherever you download your wonderful podcast at. Additionally, this is a man that does a great job, not just on the MLB baseball front, but I know that he does a great job with regards to college baseball as well. So this man is very much well-versed in a little bit of everything there. Additionally, I know that he's been doing a tremendous job over at NBC Sports Bet as well. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter /X, @_, and then Johnny with an H, JOHNNY, VTV. And Johnny, it's always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
G-Unit, it's been a minute, brother. How are you?
I'm doing tremendous, and it is tremendous that now we are in the thick of these playoff races. We just had the trade deadline come and go over the last few days, and just what did you make out of this year's trade deadline? Because I know that there were some people that were disappointed that we didn't see bigger moves made, but I thought that the closers that were moved at the deadline were rock solid, and I feel like there were quite a few teams that they did a nice job of bringing in, for lack of a better term, ancillary pieces to really help them out.
Yeah, like you said, I was a little surprised that we didn't get a little bit more in terms of the splash play, the splash trades. But I think for a lot of these teams, they did what was necessary. It might not be sexy, but like you said, they got a lot of those ancillary pieces, those things that tend to bite you in the postseason, whether that's in the bullpen or not having a guy that's able to avoid the strikeout and get on base. Like we've seen how many times those things just end up being the downfall of these teams trying to make that next jump. We saw plenty of relief pitchers on the move, guys that could be meaningful down the stretch for the teams that they got dealt to.
Yep, absolutely. And I do feel like with regards to closers that were on the move, you saw the NL East really get better with Ryan Helsley going on over to the Mets and the Phillies getting Yohan Duran. I thought that those were two big-time moves that need to be made for a pair of teams that are neck and neck in this division race, and I think that that is going to be a good one to watch moving forward.
Oh, 100%. I mean, the NL East is always something that we've grown accustomed to these last 4+ years or so, where we know one of those teams can always be the threat to take down the Dodgers and get to the World Series and possibly even win it. This year, it's between the Mets and the Phillies. And Philadelphia really added a flamethrower in their pen. Duran is somebody that I've had in fantasy previously, and he is a lot of fun to watch. And when he's on his game, man, he's tough to square up in the ninth inning when a team is trying to come back out of it when Duran's on the mound to shut it down.
Yep, absolutely. I thought that that was big for the Phillies. And personally, I thought that the Mets were going to make more moves at the deadline because I thought that with Steve Cohen and everything that he's got at his disposal, I do like the move of Ryan Helsley, but I thought that they were perhaps going to make another move or two because that bottom of the lineup has been rough. The catcher spot has been rough as well. And I now actually like the Phillies a little bit more because now the trade deadline has come and gone. And I do feel like the Phillies are set up for a little bit more success now than the Mets.
Yeah, absolutely. The Mets, second year in a row, this has happened where they have starting pitchers. To be frank, the rotation's not that good on paper.
Frankie Montas.
Exactly. But they somehow are able to just get these performances from guys that are in the twilight of their career or never even had a twilight and somehow are just able to get it done. I mean, Kodai Senga is somebody that I've really liked the last few years, so I'm not talking about him. But guys like David Peterson and Clay Holmes now as a starter has had a pretty good year. I know Griffin Canning did get hurt, but it's really crazy to consider what they've been getting from their starting pitchers. And they didn't get another starter when I thought that they might go after somebody. They did add Helsley. They did add Rogers. I wasn't really in love with the package they gave up for Rogers, but can't argue with the fact that their bullpen should be very dangerous come the postseason, where you have Diaz, you have Helsley, you have Rogers, in the fold here, as well as a few other guys. But, man, listen, it all comes down to if the Mets can continue to execute the way they've been in the regular season and translate it to the postseason. But the Phillies clearly have the edge, in my opinion. Zach Wheeler is as big game as it gets. Christopher Sanchez had a breakout year. Luzardo's had a lot of magic. I mean, remains to be seen what's going on with Aaron Nola, but I think it's still the Philadelphia Phillies division, and I still think they're probably the biggest threat to the Dodgers in the NL.
Yep, absolutely. And for Zach Wheeler, he and Paul Skeens neck and neck with regards to that Cy Young Award as well. That is going to be a lot of fun to look at. And I know you always do such a great job of taking a look at these awards markets. What do you make out of the Cy Young races, both in the American League and the National League? Because even though Tariq Skubal a few days ago didn't necessarily have the start that he wanted against the Philadelphia Phillies, still been loving what he and Garrett Crochet have put out there. And I think that in the NL, it's become very clear. It's either going to be Zach Wheeler, Paul Skeens, or, both of these guys get hurt, and then it's anyone's game.
This is a tough one because Skeens is having an unbelievable year, but the strikeouts are a little bit down. I mean, still got a 10 flat K through 9, 154 Ks and 130 innings. He gave up some runs against Colorado, which was supposed to be a gimme for him. But before that, his ERA was in the 1.8s, just unheard of. And the fact is we've grown so accustomed to this where it's automatic. And when he has any sort of a struggle, it's bizarre. And we're like, oh, what is everything okay with him? It really is marveling. The one thing that I'm really curious about this, and I talked about this preseason. Skeens was like 3-1 flat. I felt like a regression was definitely possible considering how great he was last year. Maybe there's a little bit more film on him. Don't forget, this is a guy I watched in college and, in 2023 LSU. And I felt like he had more to develop, and he certainly has in the last couple of years. The season's been unbelievable. So him winning is no surprise, obviously. Zach Wheeler has also had a tremendous year. Now, the thing I've been wondering, though, Greg, Zach Wheeler's starting to enter the point in his career where we don't know how many of these dominant seasons he has left. Do the voters maybe throw him a bone and give him the award, or Skeens is now the show pony and one of the faces of the MLB, and he's had an unbelievable season? Do they go with him? So I'm wondering how the voter favoritism goes. Like, Zach Wheeler's paid his dues. Do they throw him a bone? I think ultimately right now, the big difference, ERA obviously favors Paul Skeens. I don't personally think betting Skeens at 210 right now is somewhere I would go. I think Wheeler plus 160 is fair, and especially if the Phillies win the division and they're tops in the NL, I think it's definitely something that they would consider. I don't know if I'm laying 210 with Skeens right now because I don't think he's running away with it by any stretch of the imagination. Just the big differentiator right now is the ERA.
Yep, and is there any fear that Paul Skeens might get shut down a little bit more towards the final few weeks of the season? Because for the Pirates, I'm sure that they would love nothing more than for him to win this award. But for the Pirates, they also have to think about 2026 and beyond, because let's call it what it is. This is a season that has went absolutely nowhere for them.
Yeah, it's always a concern. It really is. It's because the Pirates refuse to really spend money, and it's, well, are they going to end up paying Skeens, or are they going to trade him, or are they just going to let him go? He's somebody that right now would probably be approaching around that 180 inning threshold, something that is pretty high. And considering he didn't pitch the full season last year, but we really don't know what his trajectory is. I don't like to typically bet off something like that where, hey, he might get shut down. If it happens, it happens. But I just think at some point they could consider Paul Skeens. Let's ease up on him. We're not going anywhere. This is the future of the sport. Let's make sure he's good and ready to go for 2026.
Yep, absolutely. That's something that I think is going to be really intriguing. And I know you always do a great job of taking a look at these awards markets, Johnny. Is there any other ones that you're taking a look at? Because obviously things are a little bit in limbo right now with that American League MVP race, with Aaron Judge currently being out, but still a pretty demonstrative favorite there. And then when it comes to Rookie of the Year award races, I think Nick Kurtz has pretty much just wrapped up in the American League. That 4 home run game, I think, solidified that. But in the National League, it's right now Drake Baldwin who's a favorite. But I do think that there might be a little bit of wiggle room there, especially if Jacob Mizorowski has some amazing starts moving forward as well.
Yeah, the NL is super soft. For me, Drake Baldwin, he got off to a really good start. And he's kind of maintained a good statistical profile. That's kind of kept him near that favorite status for the last few months. He went on a real dry spell last month. He's kind of turned it around here, but Mizorowski getting hurt really bumped him out. And, something that didn't make any sense to me, I was talking about this for the last few weeks, why Augustin Ramirez drifted so far when he was 5-1 or 6-1, maybe a few weeks ago, out to 25-1. It made no sense to me. I'm like, this is a guy who's got a legitimate chance to push 30 home runs as a rookie. And he drifted for whatever reason. And then he was 25-1 before the game starts, hits 2 home runs. Mizorowski goes on the injured list. And then before you know it, he's 5-1. And that's how quick things can change here. So I felt like Ramirez was a great bet at 25-1 because the market's just been so soft. And now it's 6-1. Obviously, I don't know if we're going to get anything close to that 25-1. So if you were able to grab it and you had that foresight, kudos to you, because that was a great ticket to have. I think Ramirez, though, still at 6-1 is a fair bet. I think there's value in that because the fact is this guy's possibly going to have 27, 28 home runs. As a rookie, that's a big deal. I'm still holding out hope for my guy, Chase Burns. He got shafted with the rain delay. I felt like he was going to carve up the Braves. It's unfortunate that he only went 1 inning and, basically skipped the start. Chase Burns really hasn't been able to get down past that 25-1 since his debut. He had a rough outing in Fenway, and that kind of killed his ERA. And when you look at him on paper, it's, well, his ERA is so high, his whip is so high. The start against the Nationals where he gave up 5 earned, that's a misleading stat line. He shut them down. He just had a couple bad walks, and the Nationals were able to hit some pitches that, quite frankly, you got to tip your cap to that, because those were really tough pitches to hit. I feel like Chase Burns, as long as his innings don't become a factor, like if Tito Francona allows him to go basically 5-6 innings the rest of the way in the regular season, I still think there's a case there. I know it's hard for him to get his number down, but this kid is unbelievable, man. Like, Greg, you know me from all my college stuff. I've been following Chase Burns for 3 years. I've been talking about how special this kid's going to be. I said 2 years ago, this kid's got the higher MLB ceiling than Paul Skeens. And like, people are like, oh, wow, you know what? Maybe this Chase Burns kid really is good. Like, this kid is so special. He has the second best slider in all of baseball. I've been saying it for years. I feel like 33-1 is still too big. I'm holding out hope that Burns is going to be able to just go about doing what he's been doing. With every start, he's improving. And that's the key factor. The only thing for me is he going to get shut down with the innings? Because, ultimately, right now, he's at 28 1/3. And he threw 100 innings at Wake Forest last year. I don't know exactly where that plays in. The ERA is obviously a concern, but if he's able to string together some of those like 5 shutout innings, 6 innings, 1 earned, and get his ERA into the 3s, and maybe have a really good K through 9, and the small sample size, obviously, we saw last year with Skeens, even though Skeens is a little bit different of a case because of his ERA and stuff like that. Maybe Chase Burns can find a way to get this done in the final 2 months here. I really think it's just too big on somebody like Burns at 33-1, where this is a guy who could string together 6 shutout innings, 10 strikeouts each, 3 in a row, 2-3 in a row. And before you know it, that ERA can be in the low 4s, and then he puts a couple more together, and next thing you know, he's in the low 3s. So I feel like Chase Burns is definitely somebody that I would still consider looking at. It's a super soft market. But Jacob Misiorowski, I don't really know what the injured list story is. I know he went out with a leg injury. I don't know what the timetable really looks like. The Brewers are going to be cautious because they're going to, all likelihood, be in the playoffs, assuming they don't collapse. And, the Brewers are going to want him in some capacity in the postseason. I just don't think Drake Baldwin should be a -230 favorite. So for me right now, it's really Augustine Ramirez still at 6-1, which I think is a good number, or it's Chase Burns at 33-1. And I don't think there's anybody else that I'd be betting.
Yep, I think that it's going to be a lot of fun to see what we get in that Rookie of the Year race because, as you mentioned, Drake Baldwin is a leader in the clubhouse, but he hasn't done anything amazing over the last few weeks. It's going to be interesting to see what we get out of Misiorowski if he's able to come off the injured list. Chase Burns moving forward because he's been great when he has been great, but he's had a few rough moments as well. So is he going to be able to figure it out by the end of the rookie year, or is this going to be more of a year 2 boom for him? So we've got a lot to look at there, and Johnny, you're doing a great job of breaking it all down over there at NBC Sports and so much more. So let the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. You can check out all my stuff on my Breaking Bet podcast, which will be resuming here in the next couple of weeks, where I'm breaking down the NFL preseason, all the awards, all the markets, futures, and things to expect there. Follow me on Twitter at _JohnnyVTV. And of course, that comes with all my picks when you subscribe to the Discord, and link will be in bio.
Absolutely. And Johnny, he's doing such an incredible job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love. And every single time he joins me, he learns such great insights. So big thanks to Johnny for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming in next, it is that time of the podcast taking picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
This podcast is supported by Talkspace.
When my husband came home from his military deployment, readjusting was hard for all of us. Thankfully, I found Talkspace.
Talkspace provides professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatric providers online. Military members, veterans, and their dependents ages 13 and older can get fast access to providers, all from the privacy of their computers or smartphones.
I just answered a few questions online, and Talkspace matched me with a therapist. We meet when it's convenient for me, and I can message her anytime. It was so easy to set up, and they accept TRICARE. Therapy was going so well, my husband and I started seeing a couples therapist through Talkspace too.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, including TRICARE. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com/military. Go to Talkspace.com/military to get started today. That's Talkspace.com/military.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Johnny Venezia. He does such great work over at NBC Sports Bet. Coupled with that, he does an amazing job with the Breaking Bet podcast, which you're able to find that wherever you find your great podcast. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and did so once again today. So a big thanks to Johnny for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81, and we're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we start things off with 9:51, 9:52 on the card? It is the San Francisco Giants. They hit the road. They're facing off against the Pittsburgh Pirates as Mike Burrows is on the bump for the Pirates and Logan Webb is on the bump for the Giants. The Giants do find themselves as a pretty good size favorite between -150 to a -164, plus 134 to a plus 140 is that number on Pittsburgh. 7.5 is the total, under is -120, and the over is even. And for the San Francisco Giants, in terms of the money line, I set this at a -149. If we're able to get some plus money on the run line, I was looking at a plus 112 or higher. I'd be willing to buy in. I'm utilizing the FanDuel opener, which those are always interesting to say the least. Right now I'm finding a plus 105, so we'll be looking to see that tick up just a little bit. If worse comes to worse, I'm pretty sure I'd be able to get like a -148 money line on the Giants. Probably will be backing them in some form or capacity, but that'll be based on some line movement. But for Logan Webb, I do always have to downgrade him a little bit on the road rather than at home, because you take a look at his career numbers. This year, he's been quite a bit better on the road, but this dates all the way back to the beginning of the 2019 season, and he does have some of the more demonstrative home and road splits that you're going to find in the league. And that makes sense because San Francisco, well, it is very much a pitcher-friendly ballpark. As for Logan Webb at home, gives up about 0.5 home runs per 9 innings, actually closer to 0.45 home runs per 9 innings, 2.78 ERA. That balloons up to a 4.05 ERA on the road. The home runs per 9 rate is about 1.8 times higher. So that's always something to be cautious of. Overall for the season has been solid, 3.31 ERA, 2.64 fielding dependent, 9.9 strikeouts, 0.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Did have that rough patch where he gave up 4+ runs in 3 straight starts, but against this very Pirates team had 11 punch-outs and gave up 1 run in his last start, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. And Mike Burrows has been able to come along for the ride as well. He's a relatively good swing and miss pitcher that does need to hone in a little bit more in terms of command. 1.2 home runs, 3.3 walks per 9 innings, but he's getting 9.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. 3.88 ERA, closer to a 4.07 fielding dependent, but he's given up 2 earned runs or fewer in 4 out of his last 5 starts, so he's been able to do a nice job there, and he's been a little bit better when he has been at home as well, as Pittsburgh is a little bit more of a pitcher-friendly ballpark. As for Burrows out there in Pittsburgh, he's posting up a 3.38 ERA. On the road, he's posting up a 4.63 ERA, despite the fact that he's giving up far fewer home runs per 9 innings on the road. But for the Pirates, you do have to be cautious that the bullpen no longer has David Bednar in there. They did keep quite a few of these pieces, like a Braxton Ashcraft, Dennis Santana. These are a pair of guys that are give you a sub 3.50 ERA. They've got some relatively good long guys in the bullpen as well, but it certainly is not the same as it was just a few short days ago. And for the Giants, this is not the same bullpen that it was to begin the season. They are overall in the top 5 in terms of bullpen ERA, but no more Camilo Duvall, no more Tyler Rogers. Eric Miller is on the injured list. You do have Jose Buto, Randy Rodriguez, Joey Lucchesi, trio of guys who will be able to give you sub 3.5 ERA this season, but now you're looking at a bit more Ryan Walker, Spencer Bivens, and for the San Francisco Giants, this has been a bottom 8 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, because Rafael Devers has been, well, not what they were expecting, to say the least. For Rafael Devers, overall for the season hasn't been too bad, but in just a Giants uniform, he has been only able to give you about a 335 on base, 5 home runs in 40 games. That is incredibly concerning. The entire catcher spot is right now producing nothing for you. You do have Matt Chapman, who's been able to supply about a 340 on base. He's up to 16 home runs, but doesn't hit for a lot of average. Eloy Ramos, 340 on base, 14 plus home runs. He's been pretty rock solid, but certainly has been a lineup at least something to be desired. Not as bad as Pittsburgh, though. As for Pittsburgh, they are currently a bottom 5 team in terms of runs per game, and you've got 3 guys on the roster with more than 5 home runs this far this season. Andrew McCutchen, Oneil Cruz, and Brian Reynolds. And for Oneil Cruz, he's a part of a just poo-poo platter of different guys that are currently hitting below a 215 for the team, as you've got he, along with Alexander Canario, Henry Davis, Andy Rodriguez, Jared Trollo, Jack Swiniski, all just not moving the line for the team, to say the least, so that is quite concerning. I do think that this is going to be a lower scoring game, but again, Logan Webb not the same pitcher away from him. Like I said, with the plus 112 or higher, I'd be willing to take a shot on the run line of the Giants, minus 148, looking more at the money line, so we'll be looking at that in some form or capacity, and maybe my total is 7.7, so here at the 7.5, I like the over. 953, 954 on the card. The Milwaukee Brewers are on the road against the Atlanta Braves, as Joey Wentz hopes to have the Brewers wincing in pain, and Freddie Peralta is on the bump for the Brewers. Brewers are pretty good size favorites, minus 145 to minus 150, plus 123 to a plus 131, that number on Atlanta. 8 is the total. The under is between minus 110 to a minus 115, over is between minus 105 to a minus 110, and for the Brewers, in terms of their money line, I made them a minus 151, again, utilizing the old FanDuel opener with regards to the run line. Right now, finding that at a plus 112, I'd be willing to take that. I would be willing to go a plus 108 or higher with this Brewers run line with Freddie Peralta. He's been able to do a nice job in terms of keeping things out in front of him and not allowing too much of the deep ball, giving up 1.1 home runs per 9 innings. Still a little bit concerning that the fielding independent doesn't match up with the ERA. 381 fielding independent, 308 ERA. 9.6 strikeouts per 9 innings is actually a career low for him, by the way, so that shows you just what sort of swing and miss stuff he does have, but overall, he's been able to be a relatively steady pitcher. Did get lit up in 2 out of his last 3 starts against the Dodgers and the Cubs, but those are 2 of the more marquee offenses in all baseball, and quite frankly, the Atlanta Braves have not been this year, despite the fact that Drake Baldwin is right now leading the way in terms of Rookie of the Year race. He's been very rock solid, 11 home runs, providing above a 340 on base. You've had Drickson Profar come back. He hasn't been able to do a whole heck of a lot for the team. Matt Olson, above a 360 on base, 18 home runs is rock solid, but now you're without Ronald Acuna Jr. Sean Murphy is up to 16 bombs, but here's what's been the issue. Ozzie Albies, Michael Harris. Harris is providing about a 265 on base. Ozzie Albies is sitting at 228. Both of these guys, 9 home runs apiece. Nick Allen, 0 bombs, hitting at 227. You just are not getting anything out of some of these guys at the bottom. And then for the Milwaukee Brewers, they're dealing with a little bit of an injury to Sal Frelick, who's been able to give you about a 350 on base. But overall, this has been a team that has been very solid with regards to their lineup, as I just don't know how long this split is going to last. They're averaging about 4.2 runs per game at home and 5.8 on the road. Again, American Family Field, where they play their home games, not necessarily a pitcher's ballpark, not necessarily a hitter's ballpark. You shouldn't be having these sorts of splits, but I mean, somehow, some way, they are just Houdiniing their way to providing a lot of offense away from home. Christian Yelich, along with Jackson Trio, have been the main forms of power for this team, with Yelich 21 home runs, Trio 17, but now Trio is dealing with a little bit of an injury along with Rhys Hoskins, so Yelich has been the only guy in the lineup recently, providing more than 9 home runs, but got a lot of guys that they just move the line for the team. Caleb Durbin, Frelick, who's dealing with an injury, William Contreras, these guys are all providing about a 350 to a 355 on base. Isaac Collins, more around about a 380 on base, and Andrew Vaughn, since he got to the Brewers, 6 home runs in his first 67 at-bats, hitting at 373, so that's been relatively impressive. And what else has been impressive for the Brewers is the way that they have seen a nice reversal in their bullpen. They were terrible to begin the season, but after Uribe, Nick Mears, Trevor McGill, you've had a lot of guys come in, give you a sub-3 ERA. Since the beginning of the month of June, the Brewers are number 6 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, and the Atlanta Braves in that time span are number 24, as Raciel Iglesias has been about as useful as a poopy-flavored lollipop. He's rocking an ERA that's hovering right around a 5. Dylan Lee has been solid. He, Desbel Hernandez, Pierce Johnson are giving you a sub-3.5 ERA, but the Dodd father, Dylan Dodd, has been a little bit all over the place. You just don't know what you're going to be able to get out of Aaron Bummer and guys like this, so it's not great to say the least, and Joey Wentz is on his 3rd team of the season. He has been able to actually do an okay job in terms of keeping things out in front of him. The ERA overall for the season between his 3 teams is a 5.02. The fielding independent is darn near a point lower, as for the season, he's giving up 1 home run per 9 innings, 4.5 walks per 9, not necessarily savory, but I do think that he's actually going to give you a little bit of better performance, but do think that the Brewers get to him and get to him relatively good. Semi-total at 88.9, so I like the over and the Brewers at a plus 110 or higher on the run line. 955, 956 on the card. You've got the Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They're on the road to face off against the Chicago Cubs. Shota Imanaga is on the bump for the Cubs. Zach Little hopes to come up big for the Reds. The Reds are an underdog of between plus 149 to a plus 156, minus 173 to minus 182. That number on the Cubbies. And right now we don't have any total up because this is the old Wrigley Field game, so that always makes things all nice and interesting. But that said, I did set the Cubs at a minus 156. So if we could get a plus 157, a plus 160 or so on the Reds, which right now I'm already seeing a plus 156 out there, I will be willing to take a shot on the money line. For Little, he has been giving up way too much of the deep ball. He has not been able to get a lot of swings and misses, and that is a big issue for him as he comes on over from the Tampa Bay Rays, where he was rocking a 3.58 ERA, but he was giving up deep ball after deep ball. He was very lucky that those were solo shots and nothing more. 1.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but the command is solid. 1.4 walks per 9 innings. Only gets 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. But Shota Imanaga is actually not a whole heck of a lot better. Shota Imanaga is pitching to a ton of contact this year. 6.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's giving up 1.7 home runs per 9 innings. So I do feel like this number has went a little bit too far. And for Imanaga, he's now given up a combined 10 runs across 8 innings in his last 2 starts. Both were on the road against the Brewers and the White Sox. So, I mean, it's an interesting outlook there. Now, obviously, you want to be taking a look at the wind situation, especially with 2 guys that are pitching to quite a bit of contact. And we're probably going to be getting the wind blowing in a little bit. It's going to be like a directional 7 mile per hour wind, it looks like. So I did have to set my total a little bit lower in this one than I was anticipating. So I made my total an 8.1. So an 8 or less, I'm going to be in on the over, and 8.5 or higher to the under. You do have a Cubs team that is just pumping out the ball. They continue to be a top 5 offense in all of baseball. Obviously, your main headline guys in terms of hitting the deep ball have been C.A. Suzuki, along with Pete Crow Armstrong. 26 home runs for Suzuki, 27 for Crow Armstrong, though he was out of the lineup yesterday, so something that you do want to be monitoring. Kyle Tucker has been able to supply you with about a 370 on base. He's up to 18 home runs. Michael Busch has been able to give you 20 home runs, and he's done a nice job being able to get on base with over a 345 on base. And then you've had the likes of a Willie Castro they picked up at the deadline, hitting about a 250. He's got a little bit of pop. Nico Horner has done a good job moving the line, hitting above a 290. And for the Cincinnati Reds, really nobody other than Elly De La Cruz is providing a ton of power for De La Cruz. He's up to 19 home runs, over 20 stolen bases, 350 plus on base, so he has been impressive. But DJ Friedel, Gavin Lux, both above a 350 on base. Austin Hayes, him coming back into the lineup has helped out this team. He's hitting above a 270 with 10 home runs. And ever since you've had Niavali Marte come back, as well as he's been a little bit banged up throughout the season, he's been able to do a nice job of supplying a bit of pop as well for the Cubs. We're starting to see this bullpen regress a little bit. You had a lot of guys that were just pitching above their skis a little bit, to say the least. If you take a look since the beginning of the month of June, the Cubs are about a league average bullpen. They haven't been awful. They haven't been amazing. You've got a lot of guys that are still rocking ERAs that are below a 3.5, as you've got Chris Flexen really starting to regress a little bit for this team. But I mean, he's there. Brad Keller, Ryan Brazier, Daniel Palencia, throwing their Caleb Thielbar. So I mean, you've got a lot of guys who've been able to do a rock solid job there. And for the Cincinnati Reds, this has been a bullpen that throughout the season, they've been about league average. It hasn't been grotesque. It hasn't been amazing. Ryan Richardson is starting to regress for this team, but even though he gives up quite a few deep balls, Emilio Pagan still supplying a sub 305 ERA. Tony Santillan, Taylor Rogers, these guys have been pretty rock solid for them as well. They did unload Taylor Rogers to the Chicago Cubs, by the way, so that was very interesting to say the least. But now they've had Luis May come in. He's been able to give you about a 3.80 ERA, so it's a very fascinating circumstance here. I did set my total at an 8.1, so 8 or less, looking at the over, 8.5 or higher, the under, and at a plus 156 or higher, I do like the Reds on the money line. 957, 958 on card. The Slam Diego Padres hit the road. They're facing off against the Arizona Diamondbacks as Ryan Nelson goes for the Snakes. Yu Darvish is on the bump for the Padres. Padres are between minus 127 to minus 137 favorites. Between plus 110 to a plus 122 is that number on Arizona with a total of 9. The over is minus 115 and the under is minus 105. And I did set my total here at an 8.8. I'm going to be looking at the under. For you, Darvish, this has been a no good, very bad, terrible year from. Now, he is coming off of by far his best start of the season. First 4 starts, he was posting up north of a 60 ERA. He goes 7 scoreless innings against the Mets, punched out 7. That is big because going into that start, he was getting fewer than 6 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up more than 5 walks per 9. Still has overall for the season a 6.46 ERA. He's a better pitcher than this. I don't think he's going to go out there and give you a 6+ scoreless innings once again. And then For Ryan Nelson, he's actually been very rock solid here for the years on the Diamondbacks. A 3.20 ERA, not going to blow it past you. 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 2.6 walks, 0.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings. He's posting up about a 377 fielding dependent. He has given up a grand total of 7 earned runs over the course of his last 5 starts, going at least 5 1/3 innings in all but one of them. So, he's been pretty steady there, and he's backed up by a bullpen that has been, well, steady in terms of the way that they are giving up runs. As for the years on the Diamondbacks, they are currently a bottom 6 team in all baseball. In terms of runs per game, they trade away Shelby Miller, who's currently injured at the trade deadline, so they really don't have a lot of good pieces in this bullpen right now. You're looking at the likes of Kyle Backus, Jalen Beeks, John Curtis with 2 S's, Juan Murillo, guys like this that are posting up over a 4 ERA. But for the Arizona Diamondbacks, even though they trade away Eugenio Suarez along with Josh Naylor, you still have some nice pop in this lineup. Corbin Carroll's starting to figure it out after he was awful coming off the injury list. He still has for the season about 250 average, 22 home runs. Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, 390 on base, 21 home runs. He's getting a home run every about 14 or so at bats, and then do have Geraldo Perdomo supplying about a 380 on base. Do like to see that. Gabriel Moreno has been solid when he's been out there, but unfortunately he's injured, so now you've got Jose Herrera sitting right around the Mendoza line of 200. James McCann, though, whenever he's been at the catcher spot, has honestly been able to hit about a 265 in a small sample size. And Blaze Alexander now getting called back up to the big league level. He's been solid in terms of the way that he gets on base over the last few seasons. And on the flip side for the San Diego Padres, overall for the season, they've been a bottom 10 team in all baseball in terms of runs per game and in the bottom 7 on the road. But you pick up Ramon Laureano, Ryan O'Hearn, pair of guys give you above 10 home runs, give you above a 340 on base. That elevates this team because they've got nothing out of the catcher spot. They're relying upon the likes of Brandon Lockridge and Jason Hayward in the outfield. Neither of those guys are with the team anymore, but do have Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., pair of guys above a 355 on base, combined 37 home runs entering into Monday. Luis Arias has been hitting about as well as he has all season long. He's up to hitting darn near 300 now, and Xander Bogaerts has figured it out. Since the beginning of the month of June, he's been hitting above a 300, so do like to see that. Jackson Merrill's been lacking in terms of the deep ball, but still give you about a 325 on base, so it's an interesting circumstance, especially with a Padres bullpen that is currently number 1 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. They pick up Mason Miller to be able to fortify it even further, but got the likes of David Morgan, Adrian Morejon, Jason Adams, Jeremiah Estrada, all give you a sub 275 ERA, but still, I do have my trepidations with Yu Darvish in this one. Did set my total at 8.8. I like the under, and I could only set the Padres at minus 107, so plus 110 or higher. I'm in on the stakes on the money line. 959, 960 on the card. The St. Louis Cardinals are on the road against the LA Dodgers, as Emmett Sheehan is on the bump for the Dodgers. Miles Michaelis is on the bump for the Cardinals. Cardinals are underdogs of anywhere between plus 158 to a plus 163. Minus 180 to minus 190 is that number on the Dodgers with a total of 9. Over and under both at minus 110, and I set my total at 9.6. I'm going to be in on this over. As for Emmett Sheehan, the swing and miss stuff is pretty good for him, but it does feel like sometimes things get away from him just a skoge. And for Emmett Sheehan thus far this season, a 3.60 ERA, but 3.6 walks per 9 innings. To his credit, he's only allowed 1 home run in 25 innings across 6 total appearances, so he's been able to do a good job in terms of mitigating hard contact, but he is coming off of giving up a combined 10 runs over the course of his last 11 and 2/3 innings, so that's a little bit less than tremendous, albeit a few of those were unearned runs. But for Miles Michaelis, this guy just pitches a whole bunch of contact. There is no deception here whatsoever. 4.83 ERA, closer to 4.58 fielding dependent. 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings. To his credit, good command. 1.9 walks per 9 innings, but also 6.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. And he is backed up by a St. Louis Cardinals team that is in the bottom 2 in all of baseball in terms of runs per game since the beginning of the month of July, as they've been averaging fewer than 3.5 runs per game in this time span, and they just don't have a lot of power. They're currently in the bottom 7 in all of baseball in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. Now, the good news is you get back Ivan Herrera, who's been off and on injured all season long. He's been able to supply this team with a 300 average, 9 home runs with less than 215 at-bats. That helps out this team. Then you've got Alec Burleson and Wilson Contreras, a combined 29 home runs. Both of these guys have been able to give you a relatively good on-base, 340 for Alec Burleson, in that neighborhood for Contreras as well. And now you're getting Lars Nootbaar off the injured list, 12 home runs, but he's not hitting for a lot of average, as you've got a lot of guys on this team like Jordan Walker, Thomas Segizzi, hopefully I said that correct, Victor Scott, a whole bunch of guys in between about a 220 to 230. Nolan Gorman has been a big giant flopperoonie as well, so it's been up, down, all around for the team. And for the LA Dodgers, they've actually been a bottom 12 team in terms of runs per game since the beginning of the month of July. I do not think that this is going to be long lasting. Now, the Max Muncy injury has been very much hurting the team because you've got Michael Conforto, who's doing a big giant nothing burger for the team. You have not been able to get a ton out of Tommy Edman as well, but Shohei Ohtani continues to do Shohei Ohtani things. No surprise there, as he's been able to give you a 380 on base, 38 home runs. And then you've got Andy Paz with 19 bombs. He's hitting at 275. He has been steady. You know that you're going to be able to get a good on-base percentage out of Will Smith, 420 on base, 14 home runs. Freddie Freeman's been a little bit silent with the deep ball recently, but it's still giving you about a 375 on base. And for Teoscar Hernandez, 16 home runs, but just a 288 on base. The big issue that you actually have with the Dodgers is this bullpen. Currently in the bottom 10, the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Now they do pick up Brock and Roll Stewart. He was solid with the Minnesota Twins, a sub 275 ERA this season. And now Blake Tryon coming off the injured list. That should be able to help you out. Alexis Diaz is a guy that picked up off the scrap heap. So, that's solid. You've got the likes of a Jack Dreyer, Will Klein, who will be able to give you a sub 350 ERA. But, it has been a not so great bullpen to say the least, other than perhaps Alex Vesia. So, I do think that you're going to get runs aplenty in this game. I said my total 9.6. I'm going to be looking at the over. And with the Dodgers, pretty much anything above a plus 105, I'm going to be willing to lay a run off with them. Right now, I'm seeing that at even money over on FanDuel. I think that we should be able to get a plus 105 or higher when it's all said and done. So if we could get plus money on that run line, looking there with the Dodgers, and I'm going to be in on the over. 961, 962 on the betting board. The Minnesota Twins are on the road. They're facing off against the Detroit Tigers as Chris Paddock goes for the Detroit Tigers and Zebby Matthews is on the bump for the Twinkies. 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 120. The over is even. Minus 163 to a minus 172. That number on Detroit, and between plus 140 to plus 148. That number on Minnesota. If we can get to a plus 154, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Twins. I did have to downgrade Chris Paddock for this start because Chris Paddock is facing off against his old team. And what I have found is that when pitchers go up against their old team, they know what's coming and they typically get shelled. That is not great, to say the least, for Chris Paddock, who he doesn't have a lot of deception. For our good friend and Mr. Chris Paddock, right now for the season, 6.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. Doesn't really have bad command, 2.1 walks per 9 innings, 477 ERA, 426 fielding independence, so should be doing for some positivity. And his first start with the team was pretty darn solid against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Gives up 1 run over the course of 6 innings, but I do have some real concerns in this spot. And then you've got a guy in Zebby Matthews who's pretty much the exact opposite, as he's been blowing it by guys. He's getting 11.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, 5.67 ERA, but he is doing for a lot of positivity. 296 fielding independent. He's only giving up 2.4 walks per 9 innings. Like, Zebby Matthews has pitched much better than what the numbers indicate. So, if I can actually get anything of a plus 150 or higher, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Twins on the money line, which I think I should when it's all said and done. For this Detroit Tigers team, they've also fallen down the toilet bowl with regards to their bullpen. The bullpen has been in the bottom 8 in terms of ERA since the beginning of the month of June. Tommy Kahnle has been an absolute mess for this team. You've been able to have Chase Lee give you some good innings throughout the season, but now he's posting up north of a 3.75 ERA. They did make a few acquisitions at the trade deadline, picking up Kyle Finnegan, but Finnegan has been giving you over a 4 ERA. It's really been Brant Herter, who you can utilize as an opener as well, and Will Vest, who have been the trustworthy guys, give you a sub 3 ERA. And for the Detroit Tigers, since the All-Star break, they have been averaging fewer than 3.6 runs per game. Now you've got Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, both cranking out the deep ball. Torkelson only hits a 237, but 328 on base, 23 home runs. And for Riley Green, he hits a 270, but only about a 315 on base, 26 bombs out of him. Getting back Kerry Carpenter is up to 18 home runs and is hitting a 265. That's a very welcome sight, as do have a lot of guys hitting between about a 265 to a 276. Javi Baez, Zach McKinstry, Gleyber Torres, throw in there Dylan Dingler as well. But McKinstry has been out of the lineup for the last few games, so he's been in and out. That's something that you do want to be taking note of. And for the Minnesota Twins, this is very much a gutted lineup that is built around Byron Buxton. Byron Buxton been able to give you 23 home runs, 343 on base, so he's been able to do a nice job there. It's been just a year of injuries for Royce Lewis. The first time he tried to come back off the injury list, this guy was just absolutely terrible. But if you take a look since he came off the injury list last time, hitting at 300 over the last about 30 or so days. So he's starting to show the Royce Lewis that we all know and love. You've got Ty France, who he was giving the team about a 250 average. He gets dealt to the Toronto Blue Jays, so that's been a bit of an issue for this team. And now you're probably looking at Cody Clemens being one of your main forms of power. He's been able to give you 12 home runs, only about a 300 on base. Matt Wallner just not moving line right now. He's up to 14 home runs, but he's only getting a 215 himself. They're looking at Deshaun Kiersey and company to be able to give you some solid at-bats. And for the Minnesota Twins, they were a bottom 10 team with regards to bullpen ERA to start with, and then they deal away their top guys, as no longer do you have out there the likes of a Louis Varland, Brock Stewart, Yohan Duran, Danny Kalum, and now you're going to be staring it down the gun barrel at having Justin Topa, Cole Sands, guys like this, Cody Funderburk, that are all posting up above a 4 ERA. So I do think that you get a higher scoring game in this one. Semi-total at 8.7. I like the over, but that said, plus 150 or higher, sign me up for that Twins money line. 963 and 964 on the betting board. The Royals are on the road facing off against the Boston Red Sox. Garrett Crochet is on the bump for the Sox. Ryan Bergert is on the bump for the Royals. The Royals are between plus 188 to plus 206 dogs. Minus 230 to minus 235. That number on Boston, 8 is the total, over and under both at minus 110. Ryan Bergert is just becoming my guy. I'm going to take a shot on Bergert on the money line. He's not a guy that's going to just completely blow it past you or anything like that. He just finds a way to get the job done. This is going to be his first start since getting dealt from the San Diego Padres, but he comes in good form. He won his last 4 starts with the San Diego Padres, giving up in that time span a combined 6 runs. Like for Bergert, he's giving you about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 4.5 walks per 9 innings. Not necessarily amazing, but the guy's been good. I really like Ryan Bergert and what he's been able to show this year. So, I'm in on him. And for Garrett Crochet, obviously this has been an incredible year for him, as he is one of the front runners for the Cy Young Award, 223 ERA. Unfortunately, Tariq Skubal is passing him by, but that's at 254 fielding dependent, 1.1 strikeouts at 2.4 walks per 9 innings. This guy has been absolutely masterful, and he has given up a combined 5 earned runs over the course of his last 4 starts, and he has been averaging over 6 innings per start in that time span. But for the Kansas City Royals, this has been a relatively solid bullpen as well. You've got Lucas Erceg, Carlos Aceves, both supplying a sub-3 ERA. They've been dealing with the injury to Daniel Lynch, which has hampered this bullpen just a little bit, but now you're getting Hunter Harvey back. He should be able to give you some good innings as well. It's been a little bit random with regards to Steven Cruz, but for the Kansas City Royals, they actually picked up some pieces at the deadline to be able to help out this offense. And for the offense in the month of July, I recognize that it's still not necessarily amazing, but they're better than the bottom 5 mark that we've seen in all of baseball in terms of their run scoring, as in the month of July they were averaging more like 5 runs per game. So you're starting to get a little bit of something there. Salvador Perez, he's been able to give you 9 home runs over the course of the last 27 games. So you're starting to see some encouragement there. Bobby Witt Jr., 29 stolen bases, hitting a 285 with 16 home runs. Vinny Pasquantino, he's up to 18 bombs. He's been able to about a 330 with regards to that on base. And Miguel Garcia is hitting darn near 300 as well. He's been hurt by this team not having just a ton of power. Yes, you've had Kyle Isbell hitting a 260, but 3 home runs. Drew Waters, he's hitting a 243 with the 288 on base and 1 home run thus far this season. And then likes of John Rave, Jack Caglione and company, the young guys have not stepped up, and Caglione is on the injured list. Not a loss there. For the Boston Red Sox, you've had Roman Anthony come up to the big league level and has not hit for power, but he's giving you darn near 400 on base. He has been rock solid. Rami Gonzalez, a little bit of an under-the-radar guy that's hitting at 290 for this team. And then you've had some of the mix and match guys like a Rob Revsnyder, Abraham Toro, a pair of guys are hitting at least a 260 for this team. Jaron Duran is starting to find it. He's hitting about a 260. Ceddanne Rafaela, along Trevor Story, both hitting in that neighborhood about a 255 to a 265 for Story is up to 18 home runs. Weiler Abreu is wild out for 20 home runs as well. So interesting circumstance, especially with Alex Bregman back in the fold. And this has been a Red Sox bullpen that's been in the top 8 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Oriel Call has been a case of one team's trash being another man's treasure, as he's been able to give this team a sub-2 ERA. Aroldis Chapman continues being an ageless wonder, 13.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, sub-125 ERA. And then likes of Brendan Bernardino, Justin Wilson, Greg Weiser, Garrett Whitlock, these guys being able to give you a sub-315 ERA has been solid as well. Did semi-total at 8.1. You do have a Red Sox lineup that is starting to surge, and the Royals are starting to find it just a skoge more. So, on the over end, being able to get above a plus 190, sign me up for that Royals money line. 965, 966 on the card. The New York Yankees are on the road. They're facing off against the Walker Texas Rangers, as Nathan Eovaldi goes for the Rangers. Will Warren is on the bump for the Yanks. The Yankees are between plus 112 to a plus 125 underdog. They're between minus 135 to minus 138 is that number on Texas, with the total being 8. The over is minus 115 to minus 120. The under is between even and minus 105, and I'm going to be in on that under. I set my total at a 7.7. For Will Warren, if you look at the actual ERA, you'd think that he's doing a bad job this year, and he does sometimes challenge hitters a little bit too much. I do feel like there's a lot of self-inflicted wounds here, but even with that 4.64 ERA, the fielding independent is actually a 3.64. He's giving up 1 home run per 9 innings. He's getting 10 punch-outs per 9, the 4 walks per 9 innings. He's really got to brush up upon that a little bit, and he's given up 2 earned runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts, and all those starts that he gave up 2 earned runs or fewer in came at Yankee Stadium, where it's hard to tame. So that actually does speak to me a little bit. For Nathan Eovaldi, this guy's been one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. .49 ERA. If this guy wasn't on the injury list, he would actually probably be the front runner for Cy Young. I mean, I'm not even joking when I say that. 9.2 strikeouts, 1.7 walks per 9 innings, 0.4 home runs per 9 innings. Imagine if he had a full season of starts with a .49 ERA. Like, he, over his last 5 starts, has given up 3 runs, 2 of which have been earned. He has been absolutely lights out for the Texas Rangers team, and he gets to face off against a New York Yankees team that, obviously, they don't have our good friend in Aaron Judge out there. Now, the good news is you do have Alex Bregman, 9 home runs in the last 23 games for him. He's been hitting above a 270, so he's been able to do a nice job here. You do have Anthony Volpe along with Austin Wells hitting for some power. Both of these guys between 15 and 17 home runs, but both are below a 288 on base. Both are hitting below a 225, and in the case of Wells, 268 on base. You just need to be getting a bit more there. Trent Grisham, 20 bombs, 355 on base, has been rock solid. You've had Paul Goldschmidt, though, really go down the toilet bowl for this team. Like, for Paul Goldschmidt, he entered into the month of June with a 400 on base. He's giving you less than a 280 on base since the beginning of the month of June. Last 30 days, he's been providing a 296 on base with 0 home runs. So that's not great, to say the least. And for Ben Rice, we've seen some progression with him, 16 bombs. He's been able to hit in that neighborhood about a 230 this year, though closer to 325 on base. And for Giancarlo Stanton, since coming off the injured list, 9 home runs in the first 125 or so at bats. He's been able to do a pretty rock solid job. And for the New York Yankees, this bullpen has been looking a little bit better recently. You get back Yuri De Los Santos, that helps him out. He's been able to give you a sub 2 ERA, and he's been a very underrated piece for this bullpen. Luke Weaver, since coming off the injured list, hasn't been amazing, but he and Tim Hill are both giving you a sub 325 ERA. Obviously, Camilo Doval, David Benner, pooping the Benner when they had their first appearance against the Miami Marlins was a little bit less than savory, but that should be able to help them out because Evan Williams is not with his 5 ERA. And then for the Texas Rangers, this team has been really good with their bullpen all season long. They've been a top 6 team with regards to bullpen ERA, top 5 if you take a look ever since the beginning of the month of June, as you've got a lot of guys going out there and just doing their job, as you've had Robert Garcia, Hobie Milner, Sean Armstrong, Chris Martin, all be able to give you a sub 325 ERA. Now, Martin is dealing with a little bit of an injury, so that's been hurting them, so they've had Cole Winn come in, and Cole Winn has been great. He's been winning a sub 2 ERA, and for the Texas Rangers, since the beginning of the month of July, this is an offense that is averaging more than 5.3 runs per game. Corey Seager, over the last 35 days, has been able to give you above a 400 on base. He, Adolis Garcia, Wyatt Langford, all between 15 and 16 home runs this season. Marcus Semien, overall for the season, he's only hitting about a 230, but he's up to 13 home runs. You've had a lot of these guys just find it ever since the beginning of the month of July, including Kyle Higashioka. I mean, overall, since the beginning of the month of July, hitting above a 345. So that has been great for the team. They are dealing with Evan Carter now going back on the injury list, but I do think that for the Rangers, they do get to Will Warren. I think that this is going to be a low-scoring game. Texas has been playing very pitcher-friendly this year, so sub by total 7.7. I like the under, and with the Rangers, we'll lay up to a minus 142 on that money line. 967, 968 on the card. The Chicago White Sox are on the road. They're facing off against the Seattle Mariners. Brian Wu says woohoo to getting another start, and Davis Martin is on the bump for the White Sox. Shock, shock, surprise, surprise. The White Sox find themselves as a pretty good size underdog, as you're going to be getting anywhere between plus 206 or plus 198 on them, anywhere between minus 230 to minus 250. Then number on Seattle with a total of 7.5. The under is minus 120, and the over is even. And looking at that initial FanDuel opener on the run line, currently that's a minus 120. If I can get closer to a minus 115, even up to a minus 117, I'll be willing to lay it with that Mariners run line. I set their money line price at a minus 232. When it's all said and done, I think I should be able to get a minus 115 with regards to that Seattle run line. So that's right now what I'm targeting. As for Davis Martin, he actually has not been bad for the Chicago White Sox. He does pitch to a little bit too much contact, but for Davis Martin, this is someone that I think could go out there, give you a presentable performance, especially in a pitcher-friendly ballpark out there in Seattle, where you pitch a contact, it's going to hurt you a little bit less. 6.2 strikeouts per 9 innings for Mr. Martin, 1.2 home runs, 2.6 walks allowed per 9 innings, 384 ERA compared to a 442 fielding independent, but does a nice job just being able to keep things out in front of him. And for Davis Martin, you do want to be noting that he has had some, shall we say, struggles on the road this far this season. As for our good friend Mr. Davis Martin, when he has been at home, he's been posting up a 304 ERA. That goes to a 470 when he's away from home, though his home runs per 9 rate relatively the same in both locations. And for Brian Wu, it's been a nice season for him. 311 ERA, closer to a 378 fielding independent. 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He is giving up the 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, and he has toilet bowled a little bit. He has given up 5+ runs in 2 out of the last 3 starts, but overall this has been a man that has been able to do a really good job in terms of just making sure that he's not having a lot of self-inflicted wounds, and when he's been at home, he has been dominant. A 2.29 ERA at home for Wu. He does give up closer to about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings at home, but he gets to go up against a Chicago White Sox team that they are really not slugging the ball right now. As you've had Andrew Benintendi be able to give you 14 home runs, that's pretty rock solid, and Luis Robert is up to a double-figure amount of homers along with Miguel Vargas, but you just don't have a lot of mashers on this team, and for the Chicago White Sox, that is coupled by the fact that not only do you not have a lot of power on this team, you don't have a lot of guys hitting for average. As I was mentioning Luis Robert a second ago, he is full of just a cavalcade of different guys that are right now hitting below a 220 for the team, as you've got Joshua Palacios, Josh Rojas, Michael A. Taylor, Vinny Capra, so many guys. They're just giving you nothing whatsoever with that regard. Now, I will say, you've been able to have Edgar Quiero, Lennon Sosa, both hitting in that neighborhood about a 275 to 280, and Mike Tauchman, nearly a 400 on base. He's actually been very good for the team thus far this season, but for the Seattle Mariners now, you've got Eugenio Suarez along with Cal Raleigh, a pair of guys with over 35 home runs this season. Raleigh enters into the series with 42 bombs. He's been able to give you a 360 on base, and then you've had J.P. Crawford do a nice job moving the line, giving you nearly a 360 on base. For Randy Arozarena, he's been able to get hot recently, 350 on base. He's up to 22 home runs. Julio Rodriguez is up to 20 home runs. Ori Polanco, 18 home runs. And with Arozarena, Rodriguez, Polanco, only in that neighborhood about a 250. Now, this is a Seattle Mariners team that's averaging fewer than 4.1 runs per game at home. On the road, they're averaging more than 1.2 points more because this is very much a pitcher-friendly ballpark. But that said, I do think that they're going to be able to do a solid job of getting to Davis Martin, along with a bullpen that just, it's not been great to say the least for the Chicago White Sox. Dan Altavilla was actually one of their better bullpen pieces. He lands himself on the injured list. Steven Wilson has given you a sub-350 ERA, but now you're left with a lot of guys that have ERAs well above a 4 right now, as you've had a bunch of guys like Jordan Leisure, Grant Taylor, Brandon Iser just not come in and do the job. And for the Seattle Mariners, Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, Gabe Spire, you've got a lot of guys who've been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Trent Thornton has been a little bit of an issue, but even Edward Bazardo, Carlos Vargas, these guys have come in, held down the fort. So I do think that for the Seattle Mariners, should be able to go out there, dominate this game. I'm willing to lay up to a minus 117 on that run line, and maybe my total is 7.6, so you're at the 7.5. I also do like the over as we go to 969, 970 on the card. It is the Tampa Bay Rays, and they are going to be on the road. They're facing off against the LA Angels, as it's Mr. Jose Soriano getting the start for the Angels, and Ryan Pepiot is on the bump for the Rays, and the Rays say hip hip hooray to being an underdog of between plus 108 to a plus 110, minus 120 to minus 132 is that number on the Angels. 8.5 is the total. The under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on that over. I did set my total at 8.6, and I felt like the Rays should be the favorite in this game. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on them on the money line for Jose Soriano. He's had some of the most demonstrative home and road splits they're going to find in all of baseball. For Soriano, he went more than 60 innings without giving up a home run on the road, and overall, Jose Soriano has been really good at mitigating hard contact. For the season, a 3.65 ERA, pretty much piggybacked by the fact that in 133 innings as far as the season, he has given up 7 home runs. So, that's been really good for him. He comes in having allowed 2 earned runs or fewer in each out of his last 4 starts, so you absolutely do love to see that. But again, this has just not been the same guy when he has been in Los Angeles, as on the road for Jose Soriano, his ERA falls to a 2.48. He's given up 1 home run in 69 innings on the road thus far this season. That's 6 home runs in 64 innings at home, which is passable, but a 4.92 ERA, that is quite concerning with him, and he has to face off against a lineup of the Tampa Bay Rays that has been in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of runs per game. I will say they haven't necessarily been the same ever since Brandon Lau went on the injured list, but you've been able to have Junior Caminero be able to pound out the deep ball for the team. He's sitting in that neighborhood about a 250. He's been able to supply 28 home runs, and then you've got a lot of guys that they just find a way to be able to move the line. Yandy Diaz, 280 average, he's up to 20 home runs. You've had Jonathan Aranda give you about a 395 on base. You need a little bit more out of the catcher spot. That's why they pretty much rebuilt it at the trade deadline, and whenever it's been Christopher Morel and Cameron Misner out there in the outfield, both of these guys 215 or lower, not necessarily a ton of power, so you've had your issues there. But for the Rays, they're going to have a big time leg up with regards to the bullpen. As for the LA Angels, this is a bottom 5 team with regards to bullpen ERA. You do have Kenley Jansen down to about a 3 ERA this season, and Brock and Roll Burke has been okay for you, but you've got so many guys like a Ryan Zephyrian, Jake Eater, so many guys are posting up above a 3.75 ERA. Reed Detmers has been all over the place this season, so you don't know what you're going to get there. Meanwhile, for the Rays, you know what you're going to be able to get out of this bullpen with the likes of Ian Seymour, Eric Orze, Garrett Clevenger, Manuel Rodriguez, Pete Fairbanks, all give you a sub-285 ERA. And for the LA Angels, this is very much an all-or-nothing team, as for the Angels, they are a bottom 5 team in all baseball in terms of on-base percentage at home, but a top 5 team in terms of home runs on a per-at-bat basis. Taylor Ward, 26 home runs, but he's only hitting at 230. Heck, Mike Trout is up to 19 bombs, but he's only hitting at 236, albeit he's got closer to about a 365 on base. Joe Adell is setting fire to the rain with 21 home runs, but he's only hitting at 225, less than a 300 on base. Logo to Hoppy, 279 on base with 18 home runs, so very much a boomer bust team. Nolan Schunel has moved the line, hitting for about a 370 on base. Sacramento, 16 home runs, hitting at 275. Do like to see that, but in the end, I do think that Ryan Pepiot is going to be able to give you a relatively solid start. Now, if you look at Ryan Pepiot, he has been doing for quite a bit of regression, and you probably experienced that in his last start. As for Mr. Pepiot overall for the season, 3.80 ERA, closer to a 4.59 fielding independent, gave up a 7 spot on the road against the New York Yankees. That was very much less than savory, and he has been giving up 1.6 home runs, 3.1 walks per 9 innings, but that said, do think that he does a solid job of just being able to stymie the Angels a little bit. I do think that there's going to be some runs given up by him, so my total at an 8.6. I like the over and the Rays. I said as a minus 118 on the money line, so getting plus money, I'm going to be willing to take a shot there. 971, 972 on the card. The Astros are on the road against the Miami Marlins. Was supposed to be Spencer Agretti for the Astros. Now it's going to be a bullpen game, and for the Marlins, Cal Quantrill. Relative pick'em game. Both of these teams between minus 105 to a minus 110 with an 8.5 total. Over and under between minus 105 to a minus 115, and for Arrighetti, made him minus 134 on the money line. For Cal Quantrill, 4.79 ERA. He's only getting about 7.1 strikeouts per 9 innings. Keeps things out in front of him. He's given up about 2.5 walks, 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, and a lot of credit to this Miami Marlins bullpen, which was pretty putrid towards the beginning part of the season. If you look since the beginning of the month of June, they've actually been number 8 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. You've had these guys like Ronnie Enriquez, Lake Bakar, Anthony Bender be able to supply a sub 3.25 ERA, so that's been very beneficial for the team. But I also have a Miami Marlins team that is averaging fewer than 3.9 runs per game. That is in the bottom 3 in the National League. You do have Agustin Ramirez, who's been amazing, 17 home runs at the catcher spot, only about a 286 on base, but he's doing a nice job pounding out the deep ball. Kyle Stowers has been able to give you a little bit more on base with about a 375 on base, 25 home runs. You've had Otto Lopez step up a little bit, hitting about a 250 with 11 home runs, and then Xavier Edwards, no power whatsoever, but he's hitting a 295, so you're going to gladly accept that. Liam Hicks has been able to give you about a 355 on base, so he's been able to do a relatively solid job there. And Gilberto Hernandez, the young gun for the team, 5 home runs and 110 at-bats, and he's hitting above a 290, so you do love to be able to see that. And for the Houston Astros, they are dealing with a plethora of injuries right now. Isaac Paredes being out hurts, but you get back Jeremy Pena, but you do have Yunior Diaz, Christian Walker, both supplying 15 home runs. Now, these two guys are both give you below a 305 on base, but Jose Altuve is looking like the Jose Altuve of old, 280 average, 18 home runs. You've had Victor Carantini be able to give you a double-figure amount of bombs, and you get back Carlos Correa as well, so good, clean family fun there. You have an Astros bullpen that's in the top 5 in terms of ERA. The Bryants, Brian King, Brian Abreu, Josh Hader, Steven Okert, so many guys that have been really rocking and rolling this year, all being able to supply an ERA below a 3. The Set Boca is relatively TBD, but you've got quite a few guys that are able to go multiple innings. You've got some relatively good depth in this bullpen, so I do think that the Astros should be able to find a way to get the job done here. Set them at a minus 134, so like that money line, I set my total at 8.4, so here at the 8.5, I'm in on the under. 973, 974 on the card. The Athletics are going to be on the road against the Washington Nationals. Mackenzie Gore hopes to not get gored for Washington, and Luis Severino is on the bump for the Athletics. The Athletics do find themselves as underdogs in that neighborhood of plus 110 to a plus 118, anywhere between minus 130 to minus 137. That number on Washington. 8 is the total. The over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. And with regards to this one, I did set the Athletics as a plus 132 underdog, so I'd be willing to go up to a minus 130 on this Washington Nationals money line with Mackenzie Gore. He's done a really good job of being able to mow them down, getting 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he's not really hurting himself, unlike in past years as well. The command has been relatively solid. He's given up 3.3 walks per 9 innings. That's a career low. He's given up 1.1 home runs per 9, so he's getting 380 with regards to his ERA, 348 fielding independent. Now, he's had 2 just very grody starts. He has given up a combined 15 runs over the course of his last 3 starts, completely lit up by the San Diego Padres, completely lit up by the Houston Astros, so that's been a little bit less than savory. But whenever Mackenzie Gore has been out there in Washington, he's been able to do a relatively solid job. At home this far this season, he's posting up an ERA of a 3.68, but at home he's giving up only about 1 home run per 9 innings, and For Luis Severino, he's actually been very substantially better when he's been on the road rather than at home, as you've been finding that with all these pitchers for the Athletics, as none of these guys like to pitch in Sacramento, it seems. As for Luis Severino, he's got a road ERA at 3.03. On the road, he's giving up less than 0.85 home runs per 9 innings. At home, only about 1 home run per 9 innings, but that goes to a 6.34 ERA. And for the Athletics, what is really a big bugaboo for this team, the bullpen, as they are currently in the bottom 3 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. You've been able to have a few guys come on strong for them. Sean Newcomb, Michael Kelly, Elvis Alvarado. These guys are below a 3.50 ERA, but pretty much everyone else in this bullpen is above a 4. You've got Ben Bowden, along with someone like a Justin Sterner, Hogan Harris, Hogan's Hero, Oswaldo Beto. Like, all these guys have been awful in this bullpen. And for the Washington Nationals, all these guys in this bullpen have been awful. So you've got 2 battles of a really, really bad bullpens. It's Zach Brzezinski, Edward Salazar, Jackson Rutledge. So many guys with over a 5 ERA. So, you've got some solid starting pitching, and then you've got 2 offenses that have been a little bit hit or miss. As you've got Brent Rooker, who's been able to spy this Athletics team with 23 home runs, about a 270 average. Jacob Olsen continues to hit above a 300, though he has seen a little bit of regression. Nick Kurtz has been amazing. He's hitting a 300 with 23 home runs. He had that 4 home run game against the Astros. He's been getting you about a home run every, I would say, 11 or so at bats, so he has been incredible. You have Miguel Andujar, who got shipped out, so that's been hurting them. But Shea Langeliers, Shea is banged for 19 home runs, and he's up to hitting about a 260, so that's been very welcome for the team. And for the Washington Nationals, this team has actually been substantially worse with their offense when they've been at home rather than away from home. You've only got 2 guys on the roster that have been able to supply over 4 home runs at home this far this season, as that's been Nathaniel Lowe along with James Wood. Wood, 24 home runs, 360 on base. I don't think he's hit a home run since the home run derby, though, as that's been a little bit rough for him. And then Lowe is hitting about a 222 with a 289 on base. You've been able to get some good production on CJ Abrams, 14 total home runs, hitting at 275. But again, only 3 of those home runs have come at home. They're looking to more of these young guys to be able to help them out. Brady House has been able to about a 250 this far this season. Robert Hassel, he's now giving you a pair of bombs. He's starting to figure it out a little bit more at the big league level. But again, I do go back to that home and road split for the Washington Nationals, and it has been quite stark. About 4 runs per game at home, about 4.6 runs per game away from home. But I do think that Gore is going to be able to go out there, give you a good performance, and get the job done. I did set my total at 8.2, so at a minus 130 or better, going to be looking at that Nationals money line. And here at the 8, I'm going to be in on the over with these 2 bad bullpens. 975, 976 on the card. It is the Baltimore Orioles. They are on the road against the Philadelphia Phillies. Taijuan Walker is on the bump for the Phils. Dean Kramer goes for Baltimore, and Baltimore is a mid-sized underdog here. You're going to be getting them between plus 122 to a plus 131. Minus 140 to a minus 150. That number on Philadelphia. And total on this game is 9.5. The over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. And for Kramer and the Orioles, I did set them at a plus 158, so I'm going to be willing to lay it with the Philadelphia Phillies. For Dean Kramer, he honestly has not been too bad this far this season. Overall for the campaign, he's posting up a 4.27 ERA. Fielding pennant is right in that neighborhood, about a 4.04. It's only getting about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but no real self-inflicted wounds. 2.4 walks, 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, but a big divide between how he pitches at home versus away from home. 5.37 road ERA on the road. He's only giving up still about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, but that lowers to a 2.89 when he is at home. And for Taijuan Walker, he's probably doing for a little bit of regression, but he's a whole heck of a lot better than he was last year. For Taijuan Walker, it was just a no good, very bad, terrible 2024 campaign where he had a 7.10 ERA and he posted up 2.6 home runs per 9 innings. This year, 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, 3.82 ERA, albeit backed up by a 5.22 fielding independent, but he's keeping things out in front of him. In his last 4 starts, he has given up 300 runs or fewer in every one of them, albeit he's been going between 4 and 5 innings in all these starts, but it's been better. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, this bullpen is now better because you pick up Yohan Duran, who's been one of the best closers in all of baseball, and this team has been coming along for the ride a little bit more in terms of the rest of the bullpen, as you've had the likes of Tanner Banks or Ryan Kerkering, Matt Strahm, all giving you a sub 3.40 ERA. And Alan Ragnall has actually been able to give you some solid innings. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, Kyle Schwarber just continues to be an absolute master. 38 home runs, 380 on base. He's been incredible. And then you got a poo-poo platter of different guys. They're giving you between about 11 and 16 home runs. Bryce Harper, leading the way, who's been really good since coming off the injured list. 375 on base, 16 home runs. Trey Turner down for what, along with Max Kepler, both have 11 home runs apiece. So Kepler is hitting just at 200 this year. He has been not great. But Nick Castellanos, 15 bombs. He's hitting at 270. And then you've got Alec Bohm, Holm hitting about at 280. JT Realmuto has been hitting at 265. Brandon Marsh has been able to move the line for the team. So it is a Phillies team that's averaging north of 5 runs per game at home. And for the Orioles, right now they are dead last in the American League in terms of runs per game away from home. And, well, they just traded away Cedric Mullins, Ramon Laureano, along with Ryan O'Hearn. So that's not great to say the least. They've gotten back Colton Cowser, but he hasn't done too much. 288 on base. He does have 9 home runs this year and less than 200 at bats, so that's pretty solid. But Jordan Westburg has been good. 275 average, 12 home runs and less than 250 at bats, so you like to see that. Adley Rutschman, he spent a lot of time on the injured list. He's clearly an upgrade to the likes of Gary Sanchez and company, but since coming off the injured list, it's a small sample size, but he's been hitting about a 290 with not a lot of pop, so he's been at the very least able to move the line for the team. You've got Jackson Holliday, who's been supplying you with 14 home runs, hitting at 260. Gunnar Henderson, 285 average, 13 home runs. And for the Orioles, you need that offense because, man, this is a bullpen that is all sorts of bad. Yeah, currently have Felix Bautista on the injured list. They traded away Sir Anthony Dominguez, Gregory Soto, which I don't think are too big of downgrades, but I mean, I say that when you have the likes of Diedrich Enns, Yunier Cano, Colin Selby, whenever he's been out there, along with someone like a Grant Wolfram, all these guys with above a 4 ERA, so that has been very much less than amazing, and I do think that the Phillies go out there, get the job done in this one. I'm willing to lay up to a minus 158 with this Phillies money line, and somebody tell it an 8.9, so you're at the 9.5. I mean, on the under, 977, 978 on the card. The Guardians are on the road against the New York Mets. Clay Holmes is on the bump for the Mets. Logan Allen is on the bump for Cleveland. Cleveland is an underdog of anywhere between plus 162 to a plus 170, and between minus 185 to minus $2 is that number on the Mets, and your total is 8. The over is minus 115 to minus 120. Under is between even a minus 105, and I set the Mets at a minus 153. So being able to get a plus 155, I'm going to be willing to take a shot here on the Cleveland money line. I recognize that Logan Allen is not necessarily the Mona Lisa Vito of pitching or anything like that, but I mean, he's been presentable. A 4.06 ERA. He needs to cut down on the walks, as he has been giving up about 3.3 walks per 9 innings, only about 6.5 punch-outs per 9 innings, but I mean, he's done a great job of reducing on giving up the deep ball. Last year, he was giving up 2 home runs per 9 innings. This year, that's down to about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings with his 4.06 ERA, about a 4.48 fielding dependence. So he's probably doing for a little bit of regression, but it's nothing too bad. And I mean, with this Cleveland Guardians lineup, the big thing is being able to get some production at the bottom of the fold, because the top guys have been relatively solid. Steven Kwan has been able to hit above a 275. You got Jose Ramirez with a 375 on base, 23 home runs, and a Kyle Manzardo starting to hit for a little bit more average, hitting at 235, 18 home runs. You'd like to be able to see that, but just a cavalcade of different guys that are right now hitting below a 225. Nolan Jones, Brian Rocchio, David Fry, Bo Naylor, Jonathan Rodriguez, John Kenzie Noel, Austin Hedges. Like, man, they just need to get something out of that. And now you've got Emmanuel Clase, who's currently on the sidelines because, well, did some suspect stuff to say the least, or at the very least are thinking so. But you've got Kate Smith, who's been able to give you 3 ERA. Eric Sabrowski, Nick Enright, they're both below a 225 ERA. Jacob Junis has been much better recently as a long guy. He's been able to give you a sub 335 ERA, so you have to feel a little bit encouraged there. And for the New York Mets, since the beginning of the month of June, this has been a bottom half of the big league team in terms of bullpen ERA. They did have to deal Jose Buto away, but you pick up Gregory Soto, which I don't think is too much of an upgrade, but you pick up Ryan Helsley, which is an upgrade along Tyler Rogers. Both of these guys have been able to give you a sub 325 ERA. Rico Garcia, in a small sample size, has actually been relatively okay in this bullpen as well. I think they might have DFA'd him, which I don't know why, because I actually liked what I saw out of him. And they also had Jose Castillo in that bullpen as well. They sent him down to the minors. I'm not sure why. He was actually doing something halfway decent for this team as well. Instead, they're going to continue to mire mediocrity with likes of Oscar Brzobin, Brandon Waddell and company, who've been posting up north of a 375 ERA. Brian Stanek has been an abject disaster. And for the Mets, it's been a very top-heavy lineup for them as well. You got Juan Soto with 25 bombs. He's been able to give you a 380 on base. Pete Alonso's up to 24 home runs. He's giving you about a 350 on base. Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor combined 40 home runs, both hitting between about 250 to 260, but then you've got the entirety of the catcher spot, Tyrone Taylor, Brett Beatty, these guys hitting at 230 or lower. Beatty's up to 11 home runs, and Mark Vientos has looked a little bit better recently, but he's still hitting for the season about a 235 with 7 home runs, so you need a bit more there. And for the New York Mets, Clay Holmes is a guy that I think is doing for quite a bit of regression, has pitched above his skis this far this season. Holmes is just really not giving you a lot of deception right now, as he's been posting up 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, keeps the ball in the yard. He's giving up less than a home run per 9 innings, but 3.5 walks per 9 innings has not been amazing. 3.45 ERA compared to a 4.29 fielding dependent. So being able to get this big of a plus number, I'm willing to take a shot on the Guardians, and I did set my total at 8.1. So go along with that Guardians money line. I do like this over as well. And we're wrap things up with 977, 978 on the card. The Blue Jays are on the road against the Rockies. Anthony Molina is going to be going in place of Kyle Freeland, and Jose Barrios, who's on the bump for the Blue Jays, as the Blue Jays do find themselves as very sizable favorites. You're going to be getting them anywhere between minus 198 to a minus 208, between plus 168 to a plus 178. That number on Colorado, with the total being 11. The over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. Did set my total 10.6, so I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under for the Colorado Rockies. Even at home, they have been able to generate a lot of offense. They did a solid job over the weekend against the Pittsburgh Pirates, but that is the Pittsburgh Pirates. As for the Colorado Rockies, overall for the season, they're averaging about 4.6 runs per game. That's outside the top 10 in all of baseball, despite the fact that Coors Field is supposed to be a launching pad for offense. Meanwhile, for the Blue Jays, they have some very demonstrative home and road splits of their own. For the Blue Jays, they have been generating about 5.25 runs per game at home. That is number one in the American League. That falls to about 4.1 runs per game away from home, and they're dealing with George Springer currently being on the concussion IL. He's been supplying over 16 home runs, above a 375 on base, but they do get, don't call his name, Alejandro Kirk back off the injured list. He's been able to hit about a 300. Ernie Clement has been able to hit above a 270. We've got a pair of guys in Bo Bichette, Vlad Guerrero Jr., both hitting above a 285, and for Guerrero, 395 on base, 16 home runs. Bichette is up to 13 home runs. Nathaniel Lukes has been able to give you about a 340 on base, so this is a plenty formidable offense for the Blue Jays, and this has been a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. The Killer Bees, Brandon Little, Braden Fisher, have both been giving you below a 275 ERA, along with Uriel Rodriguez. They didn't make a lot of acquisitions at the trade deadline, but Louis Varland is a guy that they pick up. He's been able to post up a sub-3 ERA as well, so that helps out with bullpen. That said, Jeff Hoffman really not live up to his billing, and man, it's been a disastrous season for Chad Green, to say the least. But I mean, it's been all sorts of disastrous for the Colorado Rockies in pretty much every facet of baseball right now. They're in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. Victor Vodnik has been able to give you a sub-4 ERA, but he has not been terrible in this bullpen, but they deal away Jake Bird. You've had Jimmy Herget actually give you a sub-3 ERA. He's been a little bit in and out of the fold, though, and then you got the likes of a Seth Halverson, Anel Shavili, Zach Ognos, a lot of guys. They're posting up north of a 4.95 ERA, and then for the offense, Hunter Goodman has been able to carry the mail for the team. 21 home runs this far this season, and for the Rockies, I mean, they've been a whole lot better with their offense at home rather than away from home, because that's just what happens when you play at Coors Field. You've got Jordan Beck hitting about a 322 at home with 7 home runs. You've had Mickey Moniak supply 11 bombs, hitting above a 300 at home as well, and Tyler Freeman moves the line as well when he's at home, but I mean, you still have someone like a Kyle Farmer hitting below the middle line of 200 when he's been at home. You've had Brenton Doyle be relatively solid at home, but you haven't been able to get a lot of production out of someone like an Orlando Arcia. Therio Estrada is hitting at 288 on base at home, so I do think that Jose Barrios is going to be able to do a relatively solid job. As for Barrios, throughout his career, he's had an ERA about 0.9 points higher when he's been on the road rather than at home, but he's had a reverse split this far this season. As for Jose Barrios, he's actually been better when he has been on the road rather than at home, which is much of my surprise, because this is unlike what we've ever seen out of him. 434 home ERA, 336 ERA on the road. This is despite the fact that Barrios has been giving up over 1.5 home runs per 9 innings when he has been on the road. Overall for the season, gives up about 1.5 bombs per 9 innings, 3 walks per 9, 7.5 strikeouts per 9, so he's got a 384 ERA, coupled with a 442 fielding independent. But with the Colorado Rockies, just have no faith in them doing their part with this total whatsoever. And if this sounds like an insert, it is, because we were supposed to get Kyle Freeland, but that's it for Anthony Molina. He's certainly not an upgrade. When he's been at the big league level this year, he's been a reliever. Last pitch on a big league mound about a month or so ago, 7.27 ERA, has went 8 2/3 innings in his 5 overall rehab appearances. He's just really never been able to put it together at the big league level. And you take a look at what he did at the minors as a starter, a 6.59 ERA. Now that's at Albuquerque, and that's at elevation, but still not really a guy that inspires confidence, and is unlikely going to be able to give you a lot of length. So I had to actually downgrade this a little bit more. I do think that there's going to be an adjustment, because the lines that I gave you before, those were with Kyle Freeland projected to start. I'd be willing to go up to a minus 160 with the Blue Jays run line, and I originally had my total at a 10.5 or less to the over, 11 higher to the under with Kyle Freeland. Now I adjusted it to 11.1, so 11 or less, I'm going to be in on the over. A 11.5 or higher, the under That'll wrap things up for the Tuesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. A big thanks to one of our great guests, as Johnny Venezia. He does such great work over at NBC Sports Bet. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we will fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM. Name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like here on this podcast via that 5-star review. Coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, which means I'm coming at you guys once again tomorrow. Thank you.
When my husband came home from his military deployment, readjusting was hard for all of us. Thankfully, I found Talkspace.
Talkspace provides professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatric providers online. Military members, veterans, and their dependents ages 13 and older can get fast access to providers, all from the privacy of their computers or smartphones.
I just answered a few questions online, and Talkspace matched me with a therapist. We meet when it's convenient for me, and I can message her anytime. It was so easy to set up, and they accept TRICARE. Therapy was going so well, my husband and I started seeing a couples therapist through Talkspace too.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, including TRICARE. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com/military. Go to Talkspace.com/military to get started today. That's Talkspace.com/military.